JShrek, and I'm here with a new series that I want to start. I call it Rank Time with JShrek. And today I wanted to start it off with my favorite Marvel movies in the MCU up to date. Currently there are 18 movies in the MCU, with Avengers Infinity War coming out this weekend as the 19th movie, which will not be included in this series because I have not seen the movie yet. And I will include in my Avengers Infinity War review my placement of said movie. Without further ado, let's dive right into this list of my favorite Marvel movies. Start off at number 18 is Thor: The Dark World. Now this movie is definitely the least favorite of many different people, and is my least favorite as well. I can say the one thing I don't like and a lot of people don't like is that the villain of the Dark Elves really aren't all that interesting, didn't really live up to the hype of the second Thor movie, which was leading from Thor's return in the Avengers, because the Avengers really brought out his character and really made him more exciting than he was in his first movie. But Thor: Dark World really didn't make him all that interesting. And also in this movie, Jane, his love interest, is starting to get a little more annoying. I don't really care for that chemistry going back and forth, the chemistry in general between them. I didn't really care, didn't really think that there was much there between the actors. But the one thing that was important in this movie is how they bring the Aether, which is one of the Infinity Stones, into the MCU. Definitely something that a lot of people may have missed back when they first watched the movie. Now let's get into my number 17 movie. At number 17 we have The Incredible Hulk. Now this movie was very interesting to me when I first saw it. I actually enjoyed it originally when I first saw it. It was very exciting. But when I go back and rewatch it, I see a lot of things I don't like. Like, for the most part, it's very boring. Edward Norton as Bruce Banner, he, to me, really was very over dramatic in the role and just wasn't that great of a Bruce Banner. But this was one of the first movies in the MCU, and was also the first movie to really bring about and start off the MCU with the mid-credits scene, when you see the Colonel that appeared in The Incredible Hulk sitting at the bar, and Tony Stark walks in and is starting to suggest and bring about and start up a team. And that's how that ends, with that mid-credits scene. It really started that concept of a broader movie universe, which was very cool, and a lot of people probably did not see that coming initially when they saw that mid-credits scene. That's all for The Incredible Hulk. Now let's get to the next one. Iron Man 2. Now, this movie, the plot wasn't very that interesting to begin with. It was very exciting to see Tony Stark return in his role as Iron Man in this movie. And Robert Downey Jr. did do a good job as that role once again from the first movie of Iron Man. But there was a lot in this movie that wasn't that great. They did bring about War Machine for the first time in this movie. Really took James Brody's role. He really embraced that War Machine inside of him and really shined in this movie. But there were a lot of things that a lot of people didn't like, plus I didn't like. I didn't like that the villains were very messy with Whiplash and Hammer. That whole thing was just kind of off. I didn't enjoy or like how that went about. Also, it was important that this movie came about because Nick Fury made his first appearance in this movie and really helped broaden out and get the MCU started even more with the talk about the Avengers Initiative and trying to see if Iron Man, Tony Stark, is really eligible and really should be part of said project. That's all I have for Iron Man 2. Let's get into the next one. Coming in at number 15 is the first Thor movie. Now, when I first saw this movie, I really wasn't sure what I was expecting. I honestly didn't even realize that it was a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I did not even know that this was going to be a superhero type of thing. I thought it was more just about like the Norse mythology and understanding of Thor. But when I watched the movie, I'm like, oh cool, they're doing this, they're doing that. I really enjoyed certain aspects of the movie, like how they brought S.H.I.E.L.D. into the movie to try to guard and study Thor's hammer when it crash landed on Earth, and when Thor was banished to Earth to try to become worthy, which was one of the things that I enjoyed about the movie. I did not really care for the interactions too much with Jane and her friends and everything, but it was something to kind of give the movie a little more push, or try to put a little more something into the movie, because otherwise the movie could have been kind of boring. Like, it already was boring at times, but it was a lot more interesting and kept the movie going with the inclusions of some of those other characters. I did enjoy how they included a lot of Thor's background and his relationship to Loki and why Loki is, and how Loki really understands like who he is, which really brings out his villainous side a bit, and you understand why Loki is the way he is. One last thing about this movie that I really thought was really cool is how they first brought Hawkeye in for his cameo. During that scene when Thor was going to try and get his hammer back for the first time. That was really cool, and I love how they included that. Now that's all I have for Thor. Let's get into the next one. At number 14, we have Iron Man 3. Now, this movie was a very hard to grasp movie for a lot of people, because there was just, the theme and the feel was just different compared to the first two Iron Man movies. It was a much darker turn. They also included the Mandarin as a villain, but really wasn't that much of a villain, and I did not like how they twisted that, and that he was just an actor and was a distraction from the real villain and the real plan and everything, which really threw me off. I did not like that. I didn't really care for the whole interaction with Tony and that kid while they were working on his suit and fixing it up so he can get to and understand what's going on with all these exploding people, which I did not care for that much with how all of that was going down. But I did like at the end actually how he brought about all his previous mocks and suits and everything that he did create to kind of come in with a big final like attack and conclusion scene to clear everything up. So Iron Man 3 was enjoyable at times, but at the same time was very on the rocks of how everything went about. That's it I have for Iron Man 3. Let's get into the next one. Up next at number 13, we have Captain America: The First Avenger. Now this movie, when I first saw it, I actually really enjoyed this movie as well. There was a lot I liked about it. I liked the origin behind Captain America and how it came about. I really thought it was cool about like how at the end and everything, like how he crash lands in the frozen seas of the Atlantic and everything up in the cold areas. So his body was preserved. So in the future and everything, when he is found, it's as if like he didn't age or anything at all, which I thought was a really cool concept. I also really liked how they included Red Skull in it and how Hydra really came to be and why everything was going down with that, and how he is basically just a mad scientist that's trying to get as much science and get his hands on all this Norse mythology and everything, which is bringing about the inclusion of how Thor is kind of tied into this movie a little bit, which was really cool about how they brought in Tony Stark's father helping out with the whole super soldier project and everything, which was really awesome. At times though, this movie can get a little boring, which was a little bit of a problem, but for the most part I enjoyed it. It is placed at number 13 on my list because it's really not as enjoyable as some of the other movies that I really like in the MCU. That's all I have for Captain America: The First Avenger. That's it for this video. I am splitting this up into 3 parts so it's not as much of a hassle for me to upload and go through all the editing and everything. So please stay tuned for part 2 and part 3 of this series. I will be back. Please subscribe and like and comment anything down below and all of that. I'll see you guys in the next video.